Hi, everyone, and welcome to Embracing Radical Change. I am your host, Jocelyn Mercado, and I am honored today to be here with Clare Dubois. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you, lovely.
Thank you so much for being a part of this event today. So for everyone listening, you are invited to join with us in global conversations during this week with 27 cutting-edge experts and thought leaders who will guide you to connect with the truth in your heart, to unlearn the illusions of the modern world, and to activate bold new perspectives about the future of humanity. So today, as I mentioned, we are welcoming Clare Dubois. And let me just give a little introduction about you and your work, Clare, for those who may not know you already. So Clare is the founder of treesisters.org, a feminine, nature-based organization inspiring the world's women to take shared leadership around tropical reforestation. Tree Sisters reflects Clare's exploration of the links between feminine consciousness and nature's intelligence. She and her team experiment overtly to discover how to call forth the unique capabilities and creativity of women on behalf of the trees. Currently funding over 2 million trees a year, they are calling for all of us to help them reach a goal of 1 billion trees a year as fast as we possibly can in the face of accelerating climate change. Clare is known for her direct catalytic energy, her whole systems approach to behavior change, and her unending loyalty and love for the natural world. So Clare, as always, I am just so happy to be talking with you today. And I'm really excited about your topic today, which is erotic rage, feminine fire. So let's begin the conversation, I guess. Could you tell us what is erotic rage?
Well, I have a feeling it's going to be something different for everybody, because I think the definition of erotic is going to be different for everybody, because it kind of describes a felt sense, and what people experience as erotic is probably going to be dramatically different for everybody. For me, the erotic is the nakedly alive. It's a moment when life force is moving in a particular way in our bodies. So it brings really strong sensation. And there's definitely a pleasure aspect. Of course, there's a pleasure aspect. But for me, that pleasure is due to my energy and my presence being rooted in the base of my body. Rage or courage, it's very often a heart response, or it could be, a head response to injustice. What brings on rage, again, will be very different for each of us, depending upon our conditioning. But if we are in a very deeply embodied state, if we are anchored in our first 2 chakras really strongly, and part of that for me is our nature consciousness, like our felt sense of our body being connected to all things. So it's like having our roots down in the earth. Then we're talking about Shakti. Then we're talking about feminine life force. And feminine life force to me is deeply erotic. You just have to look at a flower. You just have to look at the way nature she just opens and fills and floods and is succulent and is out there. She's just got her legs open saying, do me, to the sun in every moment. Like there's no like, is this appropriate, or what are people going to say, or there's just the experience of being totally given, from that plugged in place. When you have an emotional response to something that's inappropriate, like, for instance, the desecration of our planet, like the stripping of our rainforests, like the poisoning of our oceans, like the climate nightmare that we're heading into. Instead of it being a head response or even a heart response, there's a deeper place that our feelings can manifest from, which to me are almost like nature protecting herself through us, like the nature of ourselves rising, that brings with it, you know, all the strength of the living world. Like it's a rage that doesn't flip us out. It doesn't disconnect us. It nourishes us on the way through. It's like letting the river of truth run through your whole body. You know, it's like if I said to somebody, you know, dance to this amazingly sort of earthy piece of music, and we were in our hips and our legs, and the lower part of our body was soft, and we were aware of our yonis, and our knees were soft and our feet were planted, and we were really deeply in that spiral or that figure of 8 that is drawing life energy up our body. And then we showed images of climate change. You know, we wouldn't be having a mental discussion about it. Women would be roaring, because that's the appropriate, it's just like, that energy that comes right up from that connected place. That's like unleashing a flood. And it's sheer power. It's sheer Shakti, you know. And to me, when I really touch it, it is erotic. It is erotic. But it can bring through in the same way that when you're cleaning out pipes, it can bring with it all the clutter, which just feels anything but erotic. You know, it just feels like yuck. Because in the way of that natural state of, you know, you will not desecrate my planet, you know, or you will not threaten the lives of my children, or you will not take one more tree, or you will not poison my water. In the way of that is it okay? You know, gosh, sorry, I need to be a bit more polite. You know, is this acceptable? All of that kind of numbing down and dumbing down that we've done to closet woman into a shape that she is not, needs to be, like, you know, blasted out of the way by that Shakti. Mm-hmm. So when we can let ourselves feel it, really let ourselves feel it, then with it can come everything that's been in the way. So that can feel, like I say, the complete opposite of erotic. But if we choose or create circumstances in our lives where it's safe to let that full flood of our feelings through, it will nourish us, it will water us, and it'll help take out on the way a lot of the other stuff that has been, you know, clogging us up, essentially.
Yeah. Wow, this is so powerful, Claire. And I can just tell you, I have like chills just going up and down my whole body. And I know I've seen comments already from people that said, I'm crying already, you know, so this is something really, really deep within us.
Oh, you know, it's like, I showed up at a womb festival in Sweden. I was on Skype. I think it was earlier this year. It may have actually been last year. There was about 100 women. And I said, you know, put your hand up if you feel unable to express your full potential and life force and passion in this life. Every single woman put her hand up without even hesitation. And something in me just broke. I wanted to cry in that moment. I was like, I want to be able to say, you know, to a group of women, is anybody in here still held back, and have maybe one person put their hand up, but actually have the new norm be women so incapable of tempering ourselves that men expect women to be in leadership. Men expect us to be, you know, we expect ourselves to be, you know, plugged in and irrepressible, undeniable. That's our natural state. That's our natural state. And anything else is like it's like we've got our lid on, or we've got, you know, I often think of it as, you know, this thing of glass ceilings. Well, if you think about the glass ceiling and you've got all these flowers growing up, and then they hit the ceiling, and then they turn back down on themselves and they become all mangled. You know, that's what I feel like has happened to womankind. We've become these distorted versions of ourselves to the degree that we don't actually know how powerful we are, or or what is appropriate to come through us, or how that would even feel, or how to bring it to the world, because we're so afraid of someone saying, oh, look at her, or oh my God, she thinks too much of herself, or, you know, look away from the mad woman. That's, you know, walk away, child. You know, instead of, wow, look at that courage. Yeah. She is saying it like it is. I want to be like her. You know, I want to stand with her. I want to live a life that is completely unfettered, and that is my commitment. You know, that's the world I'm steering towards, because I can't handle anything else. And it's painful. I don't know what's more painful, holding ourselves back or letting ourselves go, but ultimately it should be pleasurable, deeply pleasurable.
Yeah. So how can we access this then? I know you said it's around the lower two chakras. Maybe that's a clue, but what would you recommend? How can we access this erotic rage?
Well, you know, to me, it's all our chakras. It's the whole flute, you know, it's the whole pipe. Because, you know, if you can open the base, but your solar plexus is clamped down on your expression of self, then you're not going to let it come. And if your throat is all clamped up, then you're not going to let it express. And, you know, we're not just one part of ourselves, but we have been so conditioned away from our sexual selves, you know, so conditioned. And it's not been safe. I mean, it's not like I'm saying, oh, women are ridiculous for not living this fully. Because we've been absolutely hammered, and it's not safe. You know, we've been taught again and again, if you go out looking beautiful, then it's your fault that you end up getting, you know, raped or whatever happens to you. Yeah. But I'm not talking about plastering on makeup and jewelry and strutting down the street. I'm talking about a different kind of beauty. I'm talking about a different kind of radiance. And that radiance is an energy that we have to give to ourselves first, you know, that we have to open into ourselves. It's like we can't try and give something to the world that we've not embodied first. So it's a very personal journey that needs to be taken. And that journey needs to be longed for. You know, it's like it's totally theoretical excuse me, to say to somebody, you know, find your erotic rage about what's being done to women and children on this planet, if they're not connected to that issue and don't have an emotional response to it. Or, you know, express your truth about climate change if they're in a state of numbed off denial. It's like there needs to be some sort of an opening in a woman or a man, or anybody actually. Now there's so much in between a woman and a man, for us to feel an absence, like something's missing. And maybe if you're really lucky, you haven't just got an absence, you've got a longing as well. And the longing is for that absence to be filled. Like something's missing that feels core to us, and that longing is the pointer. You know, for me, my deepest longing is to merge with all of nature. Like I want to feel, you know, I've had these experiences of it, the longest one being 9 days, where in my merging with nature, which is our natural state, you know, we are her. There is, you know, there's the only thing between us and nature is the bizarre thing we do with our mind that tells us we're separate. You know, we're breathing the trees, the rain is in our blood. You know, whatever we poison out there, we're poisoning ourselves. We're made of her, you know. That indivisibility is profoundly pleasurable, is indescribably powerful, you know, because when you can drop that mental separation and merge with nature and feel herself as part of, I'm sitting here looking out over these gorgeous, I'm sitting in the forest here. When you can feel it, there is no more insecurity, inadequacy, neuroticism, because suddenly you're flooded with belonging. You're part of everything, and so all the symptoms of our weird separation just dissolve. And I want that as my everyday felt experience, because then my leadership will come from a deeply connected place. My choices will come from a deeply connected place. My guidance system will be nature's intelligence, which is vastly more brilliant than my own is. You know, mine just got my little mind, but nature has got her finger on every pulse, you know, seen and unseen. So if we can let ourselves feel our longings, that's to me the first opening, the first pathway. And, you know, some people are afraid of letting themselves even own up to the longings, because there's such an expectation of a longing not being met. And so what would you rather, you know, not have a longing or be horribly disappointed, you know, or feel like you've got this deep longing but you don't know how to meet it? To me, we wouldn't have a longing if something wasn't missing. Therefore, its potential, the potential of it being met, sits inside the willingness to feel it. It's like the willingness to feel what's wrong or what's missing or what we long for is a willingness to engage with it. Therefore, you're engaging with creation. Therefore, creation's attention is with you. And then you become part of a dynamic duo, you and creation, holding this dynamic tension of this longing that's saying, you know, help me find my life purpose, or help me feel more given, or help me learn to love more, or help me feel so fulfilled even though I don't know the path to it, you know. Or it could just be, help me stop feeling so damn lonely or so empty or confused or shit about myself. Or, you know, in my life, I've often sort of tried to push away from things and move towards things. These days, I'm trying to move towards things because there's infinite amount of stuff to push away from, but I don't think it really serves so much. So it really depends on what your longing is, but I know for me, when my longing points to some place in myself that I have suppressed or I've disallowed, I've not let myself feel worthy of, I've discounted myself. Somewhere in the root of that is self-betrayal, or is a pushing away of myself. Down in that root system, there's rage, you know, and the tendency is always from here or from our heart just to throw it at the person that we're going to blame for, well, because my dad did blah, blah, and I felt blah, then I couldn't blah, as opposed to dropping below the blame game into the place where we take full responsibility and say, okay, because of all this stuff that happened to me out here, I did this to myself. You know, you can't go back in time and get those people to put you back together again, but you can come down inside yourself and feel your genuine response to what happened to you, and rage about it, and grieve about it, and howl about it, and write about it, and meet it, and press yourself into it. And we have the capacities now as adults to deal with things that we never had the capacity to deal with as children. So we get to re-identify and reinterpret and lift out the misinterpretations that became beliefs, where we blamed ourselves and therefore pushed ourselves away, and turn back towards ourselves and plug back in. And in that plugging back in, connect to our life force and feel the fullness of ourselves. And in there, whether it's erotic rage or it's vomit, you know, who knows what it's going to be as we say yes and allow our life force to move. You know, it's interesting. The timing of this is so amazing, because inside of Tree Sisters, we run this thing called the Inner Journey. And the Inner Journey it's a flow based on 5-element acupuncture, but it's consciousness based. And we have these 5 aspects in a circle. It goes from reveal to embrace to embody to activate to shine, back to reveal again. And belong sits in the middle. It's the womb. And these are 5 core aspects of ourselves. And in the 5-pointed star, there's a line between embody and shine. And embody is our willingness to feel our indivisibility from nature. It's our willingness to fully feel. And it's the root of shine, which is our willingness to sort of let our love loose. It's the outward expression of our passion, our gifts, our purpose. It's that daring to live lives of full meaning. But its root is our nature connectedness. It's our, that's where the power comes in. So we can want to bring our gifts, but if we're not plugged into our own mains, we're always going to fizzle out or lose confidence. It's like we need to be able to plug in our roots. And, an hour before this call, I did the Tree Sisters full moon call because we're in shine right now. And shine is this place of courage and love expressed and fullness and passion. And the root of it is in body, which is our, ultimately the root of our erotic nature. So the eroticism comes from that profound sense of indivisibility with nature, but expresses itself through our actions and our gifts in the world, our courage, our creativity, our purpose, our doing, like our love made manifest. And so the more we can feel what's going on, really feel it, and it is terrifying what's going on, but it is our bigger body that is in difficulty. If we can let ourselves feel that, she will start to act through us. We will start to have creative impulses. We will start to have ideas, and the letting of that through is our Shakti, is our feminine fire. That's why erotic rage, feminine fire. It'll express if we let it, and it'll express in radical truth telling, or wild creativity, or dance, or art, or public speaking, or engaging with a new initiative, or ending a relationship, or wherever that truth needs to come, so that we're more in our own authority and our own integrity.
Yes. Wow. Thank you. And yes, so a couple of pieces that you share. I mean, everything is really, really just so true, but a couple pieces really stand out. And one is to really allow ourselves to feel, right? Yeah. Whatever it is. So if it's about what's happening externally that is making us upset, to allow ourselves to feel that, and not to get completely lost in it, but to allow ourselves to really, really feel it, or the pain and the woundings that we have within, to really feel it. And
to understand that it has a function, and a value,
right.
And that what we've been taught, as in, oh, they're so emotional, it's the weaker sex. What is stronger, suppressing the crap out of everything that you're too afraid to feel, or feeling it fully and then taking action?
Yes, and then taking action, exactly, and allowing that to inform us about what is the unique spot that I'm here to fill, because that's so often the most difficult things we've been through, and the most challenging emotions that we're feeling are wanting to lead us to, to how we're meant to somehow bring our gifts forward, or be creative, or, shine, right, as you say. So it's so, so important. I want to bring in something that came up in an interview yesterday that just feels really relevant. This was with Malida Gebremedin. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She had a really, really beautiful interview. And part of what she spoke about was that women, our cervical gateway, the energetic field of that is directly tapped in to the core of Mother Earth. And I had never heard that before. And it just completely rang as truth to me. And I think everybody else on the call. And so this connection with our mother, this connection with the earth, it feels to me, and it has been my experience, that we can receive so many answers just by going and sitting with her, right? Sitting on the earth, or laying down and letting your heart be pressed up against her. So I just wanted to bring that into this conversation, because it feels so important to me in relation to all that you're saying.
I was at Womanfest, which is the first UK women's festival, in August this year, and there was an amazing teacher who's actually doing Courageous Conversations on the Tree Sisters Facebook page at the moment. Samuel, she's Argentinian, living in Spain, And she teaches about erotic confidence, amongst other things. And she did a workshop where she was teaching us how, like reflexology on the feet or the hands or the ears, the vagina literally is a template of the entire body in and of itself, which was kind of, and she was just like, at the right around the entrance to the vagina is I think it was the kidneys. And I was thinking, yeah, how interesting. Fear, all the way up to like through the liver area and up into the spleen. And I was having another of those moments where I was just like, oh my God, nobody gives you an instruction manual for what the hell it means to be a woman when you're born as a woman. The ancient cultures initiated their girls, initiated their women. They had their cosmologies. Now it's just, if you're lucky, you're handed some Tampax and here's your, you're going to bleed, but with no understanding of our feminine cycles, the relationship to the moon, our physiology itself. She talked about the cervix as the gateway to the cosmos. She talked about it as the gateway to, of course, it's a no-brainer, our sacred creative potential. The cervix is the portal to the most mysterious vessel of creation that women happen to carry in our bodies. That is a lifeline to the creatress or the creator, or however you perceive it, and a physiological process of generating life that science still doesn't understand how it even happens, Yes. So we have miracles going on inside our body. And of course, the gateway to that would be this, spectacularly sacred, deeply, deeply attuned vessel, the vagina, and everything that's, it's on the outside. I mean, I call my yoni my ear to the ground. To me, that part of me has a remarkable intelligence, a different intelligence to my heart, a different intelligence to my mind. And, she's in partnership with the soles of my feet, which are part of my taproot. She's in partnership with my tailbone, which, is all to do with the amount of spinal fluid that we have running up and down our bodies. How much like a river actually are we? How connected to our own sensuality are we? I'm speaking as a total newbie. This is so new for me. My background was incredibly sexually violent as a child. And so I defended myself on multiple levels, but really left that part of my body behind. Like I existed from the neck up, which a lot of women do, because so many of us have been horrendously abused in one form or another. And it's like, it's safe to be here so that we don't feel. So it's very challenging to have someone coming along saying, the root of our power is our ability to feel. What's different about a woman is that we have an innie. We're designed to be able to receive information, whether it's at the yoni level or the womb level or the heart level or the third eye level. We're designed to receive and be intuitive and instinctual. And our instinctual nature is not from here. It's body based. So I think we're moving into I want to call it a renaissance. I mean, who knows? How long it's been since women as a norm were taught the sacredness of their own bodies, the intelligence of their own bodies, the mapping of their own, let's call it the erotic physiology, and how that weaves in with our intelligence and our body knowing. It's like we've been in a different room and the door's been closed, and then suddenly someone's going, well, did you there's a door there and it's got woman written on it, and you're going to walk through it and discover what it actually means. And we're sort of walking in going, oh, crikey, I had no idea. I keep going through door and then another door and then another door, just going, oh my God.
So much.
So much to learn. And I'm perimenopausal. I'll be, stopping bleeding soon. And I'm only just fully discovering what it all means. And every woman deserves that, because it's our birthright and our power place. And why do we think it is that over generations and generations, and specifically for white women, 300 years of witch burnings, 300 years of torture and death, away from the source of our power, our body knowing, and into the ownership of men rather than the ownership of ourselves. You know, we've got a lot to alchemize, a lot to alchemize.
Yes. Yes, and so we were talking about this a little bit before we started broadcasting too, that I you know, in what I am seeing and hearing from the people in my community, the people who have been on these amazing calls, is that, you know, we've been put through the ringer in the last year or the last 6 months for especially. And so people are really, and I think, you know, women especially, but there are some amazing men as well, are ready to take action, right? And ready to stand up and do what's needed.
I'm just saying, Iptizam.
Yes.
And how?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're feeling this so strongly, and so many of us are just ready to say, you know what, to hell with like holding back, and
there's no more room for it.
All of that, right? To let it go, to just really,
you know,
move forward.
I oscillate from terror around what we're facing as a species in terms of climate disruption, and wilder and wilder acts of outrageous courage. Like I just go, oh my God, and then feel it, and then go, rah, and then, oh my God, and then, rah, and then I just get like, I get more and more outrageous. And every time I hit those kind of like, moments, I do that thing of crumbling. I let myself go to the place of despair, because what I found is that as I let myself go down, if I let myself go down and really genuinely connect with whatever fracture it is in the human psyche that's allowing us to cause this stuff, ultimately I'll meet another part of myself coming up the other way with rage and creativity and audacity. And it's like I catch on her coattails, and suddenly I'm going to do a course called The Courage to Shine. You know, that's the next thing that's coming. And at the time it feels like this really good idea, because I'm totally on the upswing. And it's like, we've got to get as many people as possible together and like alchemize our fear, because if we can do that, then our life force will be liberated, and then we can blah, blah, you know. And, but the serious point here is we have no idea. Humankind has got no idea whether we're going to survive the next 20 years. None. You know, we don't know whether we've got 10. And, you know, 5 years ago, they were saying we've got 100, and then climate change has accelerated at a rate of knots that is beyond anybody's, you know, they're all still saying, oh, if we can stop the tipping points have tipped. They've all tipped. So now we've got runaway climate change, and it's happening really fast. Okay. We've all incarnated at this point in time. There's a deep soul commitment, I believe, for everybody that has incarnated at this moment in time to show up for a purpose. Okay, I don't think the purpose is just giving up and dying. I think the purpose is using this extraordinary time to blast through every ridiculous bit of cultural conditioning that we've been poisoned with, recognizing that it's not anything to do with what a human being actually is, no longer being satisfied to stand by and watch, no longer being able to let denial numb us off or overwhelm, prevent us from stepping up, and choose to let the fire of our current circumstances help us burn away every last restriction to our fullest embodiment of the souls that we are, on behalf of our own species, on behalf of all species, and on behalf of life right now. Like, life has just thrown down the biggest gauntlet that is available to be thrown down. And we are life, you know, we are nature. So this is also her co-creation. She's created us. Yes. We've, in our weird dissociated state, have decided that we can, you know, go out onto the end of the branch and then cut our own branch off closer to the trunk. You know, we're acting as if we don't need an ecosystem to survive with. Well, we're going to have a rude awakening, and it's starting already. But the bigger thing for me is there is an opportunity now like none we've ever had before to find our core strength and bring it to bear. you know, and if somebody turns around and just goes, "Ooh, look at her, look at him," whatever, it's just like, yeah, and what are you doing? You know, is that your answer to what's going on? And no longer letting other people's perceptions be the determining factor, or other people's reactions or judgments be the determining factor on who we choose to be in our lives and what we're prepared to bring forward. Because I'm not here to make all of these people over here feel comfortable. I'm here to live the sole purpose of this incarnate being here. And you're there living the unique soul purpose of that unique soul incarnated there. And the note that you ring and the note that I ring will be completely different. But if we're in our hearts and in integrity with our souls and saying yes to ourselves at the deepest level, they're going to harmonize and we're going to be stronger because of it. And to me, that's the only way through from here on in, is to say yes to ourselves, yes to each other, yes to our indivisibility from nature, yes to everything that wants to move through us, and then to discover what the hell we're made of. We have no idea what we're made of. And that's what gives me hope.
Yes, yes, I agree. So wholeheartedly with you. Would you like to share a little bit more about your course? Because I have a couple more questions to ask you after that, but I think it's really important, and you mentioned it now, so I'm sure people are curious.
I can't get out of this light. I'm sorry that half of me is like blazing here. I've got a very limited place in my home where I can sit with the actual internet. I keep moving. Hang on a minute.
I think it's just illuminating the importance of what you're saying even more.
Illuminating my right shoulder. The Courage to Shine is easily my most personal offering I've ever made, because it's my own tools, perspectives, like ways of seeing, ways of choosing, and ways of working with my energetic physiology to alchemize and transform everything that's held me back. And you know, so Teresa's was given to me in a car crash, and when it was given to me, so I literally crashed into a tree, a voice started talking, and I was given the whole thing, the name, what it was for, how it should operate, the theory behind it, everything. When I was given it, I was more terrified than you could ever imagine, because I was basically told, you have to reforest the tropics within 10 years. You have to mobilize the women are the missing piece. You have to make it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take nature for granted. You have to help women remember who and what they are, and feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. That was the basic thrust of the 5 main terrifying things that I was told that had to be done. I could see the value in all of them, but I felt incapable in every single area. So I had only ever been a loner. I'd never worked in an organization. I'd only ever worked for myself. I was technically incompetent. I was socially inept. I was incredibly frightened of just about everybody. So I could say I was a thoroughly neurotic introvert being asked to step out onto the global stage and give my life as a leader and the leader of a women's network, when I was fundamentally terrified of women, having been mercilessly bullied at boarding school, an all-girls boarding school in the UK when I was far too young. When I didn't understand what it meant to be a woman, you know, women have to remember who and what they are. I hadn't got a clue. I was a very good conditioned man, you know, stuck inside of a woman's body. So I've had to get from terrified to out there anyway. And it's been like this, you know, it has not been a straight line, because there's just been nothing easy about the conditioning that I've had to get over. But if you can let your love overcome your fear, if what you love and care for and want to take action for, you know, if the thing that's out there matters more than the eroticism in here, you will act. But it's hard. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. And so there's been a whole lot of different things that I've utilized and created along the way to get me over each hump. And I'm calling it inner alchemy, because what I'm talking about is the fact that all the places on the inside that we limit ourselves, all the places where our brilliance has come up, we've got bad feedback, or we've been hurt or abused or whatever, and we've slammed it down. We've got our life force stuck, and then we've got more of our life force holding it in place. And then we've got more of our life force on top of that, doing some version of ourselves that is existing in the absence of this energy and this energies. So we're not just bound up at the level of what we've repressed. We're also bound up in the act of repression. So when I put my attention towards the parts of myself that are in terror, I'm going to go through these different layers. I'm going to go through all the reasons that I've, the reasons and the stories and the belief systems that I'm holding everything in place with. I'm going to go through the parts of myself that are literally in defense. And then I'm going to have to meet the part of me that's ready to come forth with all the stuff that she's there and integrate her into my being, all of which liberates all of that energy into my system and creates a profound strengthening and increased intimacy with self. But where are the guides for how to do that? How do we understand that? And, my version of that is just going to be my version. But it's worked for me. And so I figure if I can bring this forward to as many people as possible, if any of my tools can be picked up by other people and found useful and help them liberate more of their life force on behalf of life, then it's worth trying. So it's 21 days. It's based around 4 webinars. In between each webinar, there'll be tools and prompts and various things to create this continuum. And the 4 webinars are called The Ultimate Embrace, which is an exploration of how self-acceptance is the root of our deepest healing and liberation. The second one is Practicing Alchemy, where we do a deep dive into different tools and actually work them. The third is the shorthand version of it is Unliving the Lie, which is what I call cosmic stain removal. It's really understanding what we are and what we're not, and how we can use our minds to help with that, living that process of emergence all the time. And the last one is called Reclaiming the Throne. And it's a deep ceremony of collective reclamation of the truth of our feminine nature and a lifting out of everything that's in the way. Because and the whole course is based on an understanding that we are fundamentally energetic. So how we use our mind and our energy and our emotion literally can alchemize the stuff that's in the way. It's all just energy at different frequencies. So if you bring a strong enough frequency and put it in a low enough frequency, it can change and it will rise. And so it can go from a place of feeling completely abandoned to totally belonging with just a shift of frequency. And the more of us that we can get together focusing in these particular ways, exponentially it's stronger and stronger. And this is why I want to get this course out to as many people as possible, because the more and more and more of us that take it and go deep with it, we have an exponentially increased level of power in the system to lift out the stain removal, to do the stain removal, essentially. And that's what I mean by unliving the lie. The shit that we hold that stops us from believing in ourselves is a lie. All of it. No matter how many parents did this, or grandparents or teachers or whatever did that, there's one truth. We are a sacred part of creation. Everything else is just stuff that's been forced into our ego, and it's not the truth. You don't look at a river and say, you're bad. A river is a river. A river is a sacred part of creation, like a redwood tree, like a kingfisher, like a butterfly. It's not bad because it's orange and this one's black. No, it's as valid in its beauty as an elephant, completely different, but valid. So is a human being. And so is a woman. Just because we've been conditioned and suppressed and criticized and tortured and abused and made property and raped and whatever else we've had done to us, being conditioned away from ourselves, doesn't mean any of that's true. And how we've interpreted it in order to survive. But the whole lot needs to lift out, because The reality is we are raw power, part of creation. We're rivers of woman. We are fires of woman. We're hurricanes of woman. We're forests of woman. You know, we are nature inside this body, connected to all of it, utterly sacred, utterly whole and complete. And the rest of it that's being put onto us needs to be lifted off. That's reclaiming the throne. How can we be so clear that the stuff that comes into our head that stops us is it's just crap? We don't have to buy into it anymore. How do we learn how to steer our energy from there over to here? Go down this path, holding hands with as many other women who are with us on that, and men as well. Like, who's with us on the path back to human extraordinary brilliance, away from, you know, what I call consumer consciousness to what I call restorer consciousness. You know, a humanity that is recreating a story for itself, choosing to be stewards of this world as opposed to mindless consumers. You know, we can do it with our minds. That's what it's for. Our minds aren't for suppressing us. Our minds are to direct us into our brilliance, and that's a choice.
Yeah, and I love your description of this as alchemy, right? As alchemization of lifting off all of this, all of the everything that's been, you know, holding us down or holding us back or keeping us stuck.
Well, why would you buy into the lead if actually you're gold?
Yeah.
You know, bottom line, why would you, when we feel so shit, believing the stuff that's not true, and yet it's easier to believe that stuff than it is to own the purity of our own gold. You know, this is lead to gold stuff. This is lies to truth, lead to gold.
Yes. Well, thank you for that description and invitation. And I'm going to, in just a minute, I'll put the link here for the Courage to Shine for anyone who is interested. I really encourage everybody. And what the link is for here, actually, I'll say, is for a call tomorrow with Clare. That's going to be a call to learn more about the class. So it is a free call if you click on that link, so you can learn more about it.
Yeah. So that's at it's 7 p.m. UK. It's 11 a.m. Pacific. It'll be recorded. So if you sign up and you can't listen to it live, you can listen to it whenever you want. The course itself starts November 7th. And when you take this course, you will be planting a minimum of 110 mangroves in Madagascar. So this is not just you taking a course. This is you gaining an entire tool set that will be yours from here on in to use for any difficulty in your life that requires courage. And you will be transforming lives and lands of people and place in Madagascar.
Beautiful.
And it is just thecouragetoshine.com, thecouragetoshine.com.
Okay. So
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you for letting me share that. It means a lot.
It's important. I mean, there's a question in the chat right now, for example, from Paige, how can I help reforest the tropics? You know, and that's one beautiful way, which I'm sure we can. So
well, that's one way, but becoming a tree sister is another way.
Yeah, go ahead. Share all the ways.
Yeah, becoming a tree sister basically means that you start to donate monthly. So if you can donate, let me think, $20 is 50 trees a month. So you can do calculations from there. $20 a month, 50 trees a month, 50 trees. So $1 is 2.5 trees. And those trees are spread across Brazil, Cameroon, Kenya, Madagascar, India, and Nepal. And those trees are a combination of trees for profound biodiversity, so for critically endangered species like gorillas, pumas, ocelots, jaguars, monkeys, endangered trees, all the way through to replenishing cloud forest, water management in Africa. I mean, they're stunning projects, and you can look at all of them. If you go to treesisters.org and go to our trees, you'll see all our projects there. You can also become a water carrier, which means that you give from your business. So we have yoga instructors who give one class a month just to the trees, all the profits to the trees, writers, jewelry makers, coaches, small businesses who are all embedding restoration into their business models. So however they give their gifts and receive funds, a portion of those funds they give back to the trees. And again, if you go to our website and just put in the search bar water carriers, you'll go to a place where all the different categories of water carriers are. People do fundraisers, we do film showings, we have local things called groves, which are local women's chapters. You can look again for groves on the website and find out if there's a grove near you, or if you want to set up a women's circle. There's so many ways to do, but the deepest thing is to make that initial choice, is to feel whether you can go on a moment longer knowing that you're emitting carbon every day and not actually cleaning it up, given that we know what's coming. You know, our role as Tree Sisters is to help normalize a completely different culture, and that is the culture of restoration. That is the culture of, if we are warming, we do conscious cooling. You know, if we're alive at this time, part of our role is to support everybody to understand that it actually feels beautiful when you start taking care. Like, we've been taught to take life for granted, but it is absolutely beautiful and meaningful and such a privilege to evolve from that sort of teenage consciousness of, I can do anything to my mother and to hell with her, to, oh my God, she's falling apart, it's time to take care of her. It's a maturation into co-creation with our planet, rather than this bizarre dominant patriarchal system that we've been stuck in that says, well, we can do whatever we want to her and she'll just keep providing. She can't keep providing anymore. We have to take care of her. So becoming a Tree Sister weaves you into a global community. It'll weave you into the inner journey if you want to. And you can go as far and as deep as you want. There are endless ways, really, to bring your creativity.
Wonderful. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you are, as the leader of Tree Sisters, you have this kind of unique touch points, I guess, I'm imagining, right? With different, organizations that may be involved in information about climate change, how, the status of where we are with trees and, deforestation or reforestation. So with your finger on the pulse of all that, what I want to ask you is, what is the conversation that we need to be having right now? And what are the things we need to be doing right now? To each have the highest impact that we can. I know that's a huge question. Thought that might be fun to answer.
Yeah, let's do the simple questions. One of the hardest things about being alive right now is nobody's really telling the truth. And when you understand that the governments have known this was coming for 50 years, they knew exactly where we were going. They had major choices to make. There have been people all along the way sounding the alarm, from the ecocide law that they're trying to push through now. They tried that on the year of my birth, 1971. They almost pushed that through. But Canada and the tar sands and England and fracking and various other things got in the way. Some core people just blocked it. The IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change report, which you can Google, has just come out. If you look on my Facebook page, Clare Dubois on my Facebook page, or look up the Green Party in Canada and Elizabeth May's last speech in Parliament. She's the head of the Green Party in Canada. That's also on my Facebook page. If you scroll down my Facebook page, she delivered a speech that was not one word was wasted. It was sheer truth and brilliance. You could have heard a pin drop by the time she'd finished. I was listening to her. I was howling, absolutely howling. Not just because of what she was saying, but because of the relief of hearing a politician just say it like it is. One of the things being, because it's an intergovernmental panel on climate change, that the governments had decided to water it down to say, we've maybe got 12 years. What it originally said was, we've got 7. So, and again, they've known this was going to come. What this says to me really strongly is there is no leadership going to come, I don't think, from on high. If we're waiting for someone on high to save us, it's not coming. If we're waiting for a government, I'd love to be wrong, and please life, prove me wrong. But as it stands right now, what we've been shown is that the governments know this is coming, and whether or not they're seeing this as a part of population control, and this is how we get rid of half the world's population, I've no idea. But what I know is it's up to the grassroots. It's up to us. What we accept, what we fund with our choices in every moment, where we put our money, is how we're voting for what is appropriate. So one of the reasons I'm doing Courage to Shine right now is because I want to give people tools to handle fear. I want to give people tools to handle the stuff that comes up in us in relationship to what's coming. At one of my team members 2 nights ago, I had just heard some more really difficult climate news, and I was on the floor again. And she just came back to me and she said, Claire, what is Tree Sisters for? Tree Sisters is hope in action. Tree Sisters is about only focusing on the world that we want. We can't do anything about right now the fact that this one fact was there'll be no Arctic ice by next summer, which means the Gulf Stream is on its way, which means my country, England, is heading for massive change. So is Northern Europe. The governments are doing nothing. They're doing nothing. And so in a climate of complete denial, what do? Well, you come back to the truth of yourself. The only thing we're left with is to come back to the truth of ourselves, is to come back to our indivisibility with nature, the reality of our own magnificence, the capacity that we have to start plugging in to that brilliance, to redefine what we are as human beings, to reach out to others who are doing the same thing, to not wait around for the miracle anymore, to become the lived miracle. That's what we need to do. We need to become the lived miracle. I spent time with the Kogi in Ecuador this year. The Kogi are one of the most, I don't even know how to describe them. They're a indigenous tribe in Colombia who consider themselves the guardians of the planet. And their high priests spend the first 9 to 26 years of their lives only in a cave, never coming out into the light of day to learn how to listen to Gaia. These people know how to do ceremony in such a way that they can go to Fukushima and radically reduce radiation from one ceremony. They can put crystals in the earth and produce water. We've often heard about indigenous people being called in to stop fires, to bring the water. Those human beings who have not lost that connection know how to work with the planet. We have been so disconnected from that reality that we're wandering around helplessly as if nothing can be done, essentially because we don't know what we are. I was at this conference at the weekend, and there were a lot of indigenous people there. There were a lot of Native Americans, First Nations people, and I got to spend a lot of time with them. And it was such an interesting culture shock to me as a Brit. I grew up on cowboys and Indian movies, and there I was sitting with these Indian people who had gone through genocide at a level that was, it's impossible for me to even comprehend what they've gone through, and are still sitting there with dignity despite the hell going on inside of their cultures. But I could feel this deep relief in my body sitting with them. The consciousness that came through them that is reverent to nature, that is taking care of each other, that looks to 7 generations, that is everything that makes sense to me. I was like, God, one of the things that we have to do, or my husband would say, get to do, is protect the remaining indigenous people on this planet. I read 2 days ago that the frontliner for the next Brazilian election is a businessman who has said he's going to get rid of the environmental part of the government and fold it into agriculture, because essentially trees are just cows and grass waiting to happen. And he actually said that this is the leader of the biggest chunk of the Amazon rainforest, the single biggest forest on the face of our planet that is the source of so much of our rainfall. He actually said, if I'm elected, I will provide not 1 centimeter of a reserve for indigenous people. Not 1 centimeter. It's like Trump on acid that is about to pick up the Amazon and do whatever the hell he wants to do to it and the indigenous people. It's unthinkable. It's absolutely unthinkable. So I'm left sort of going, okay, what do we do? What do we do en masse? How do we help? Like what, you know, well, the first thing we do is we find our power. You know, we've got to find our power. It's like we've got to move from feeling like we're helpless to realizing that we have the power of the universe at our fingertips if only we would open into it and believe it. And if we don't feel powerful, then the next thing is gather with others, because together we do feel powerful. And that's the main thrust of Tree Sisters: build community of like-hearted and like-minded people so that we can do something, so that, you know, if I'm freaked out and I have a go, I've got a place where I can go, and everybody could say, it was great, you know, you're fine, let's do it together. You know, women who have each other's back, like, find your community. I just saw a thingy popped up that said, what's going to happen to the UK? What will happen to the UK when the Gulf Stream is at the weakest it's been for 1600 years. The Gulf Stream actually depends upon Arctic ice, and the balance between saline and fresh water, and the cooling of the warm current that comes up, dropping down and then snaking back down the east coast of America. Without the ice, it's happened before that the Gulf Stream has stopped. It's a radical change of climate. It's be a radical change of climate. The Guardian actually did an article on it. If you look in the Guardian and Google Gulf Stream, they're actually saying, you know, much more severe winters. I'm not entirely sure. You know, essentially England is Labradorian. The latitude is Labradorian. The only thing that stops us having a Labradorian climate is the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream that brings all of these nutrients and warm water up from the Gulf of Mexico. It's been stopping, it's faltering. And if we have no Arctic ice, I don't know what's going to happen, but what bothers, I mean, that's what finished me this weekend. And I've sent various people off to start finding out which universities in the UK are studying this, because people must be. And if it's not coming out, then it must be being silenced on some level, because England, Europe should be preparing. You know, we're in unprecedented times is the reality. That's what I mean by nature is throwing a gauntlet down. Business as usual is over. We're in a whole new phase of creation. You know, weather is not going to be the same ever again. The tipping points are tipped. You know, I can say all of this now without howling my head off, because I've been howling about it for about 15 years now. Now there's just, okay. And in the face of that, what do we do? And what do we do? And what do we do? Like, what next? And what next? And what I will say is that going into abject terror is not the answer. And that's easier said than done. It really is easier said than done. And that's why I was so thrilled that one of my team members just like picked me up and put me back down and just said, okay, we're going this way. Okay, we're going the path of love, not fear. Because when I'm frightened, I can't think straight and I can't react appropriately. And one of the ways back to love is to focus on the beauty in every moment, is to go outside and find beauty and find it beautiful and bring yourself back to now. We're not in the future yet. And actually the only place we can ever be is in the present moment. And if all we're doing is being terrified of the future, and I'm being wildly hypocritical here because I've spent so much time being afraid of the future, but part of my path is to do it, find another way, and then try and bring and offer another way. You know, the way is not to just run screaming down the street. The way is to stand very still and generate a different vortex of possibility. And out of that connected place, feel for what is yours to do. Bottom line, everybody needs to be giving money for trees. Everybody, every church, every school, every organization, every business, everybody, because we've been pumping carbon into the atmosphere as if it's not going to have an effect. And it is, and we need to get it back out of the atmosphere. And the greatest technology on the face of the planet for doing that are trees, because they then provide everything else: biodiversity, food, soil, water, rain, groundwater, rivers, streams. It all comes from trees. So first step, become a tree sister. You know, second step, feel into who and what you are and what is ready to move. Third step, find the people around you who are of a similar mind. If you can't find them, come inside of Tree Sisters and come into the inner journey in Tree Sisters and find them in there. You know, there's thousands of women in there. We're all in this conversation. You're not going to be alone for one moment longer. You do not have to be alone in this situation. And then if you want to create a grove, a Tree Sisters grove, then you can find other women in your community and you can meet locally and have that in-person support that is needed to feel hope. You know, when I'm with other women, I can feel profoundly hopeful. We are so freaking powerful. So, so powerful. And we get to live these lives that are audacious and meaningful and beautiful and creative and radical. And, you know, yeah.
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 Yes. There's something you said in there that I just want to highlight. There is, so, you know, every time, I try not to ever watch the news, but every time a little bit of news gets through to me and whatever, you know, I hear about something that's happening that makes me really upset. I have this deep, deep sense that and we all know this, right? But it's just not right that one person in charge of one country has so much power over all the rest of us. And it's not true, right? It is in, I guess, in some realm, but it's really not true. We each have as much power as each other. And when we join together in this way, we have vast, infinite amounts of power, right? So I just want to, I'm just putting that out there, you know, as something to really bring into the conversation and know within yourself that this one person here and one person over here, they don't have all the power. And we get to decide, right? We each get to decide for ourselves, and we get to join together in community and access the power that all of us have together.
I'm sitting here, I'm not distracted. I look like I am. There must be 20 turkey vultures that have just started spiraling literally outside my window. Like, as you started talking about community, suddenly these huge vultures are flying like this, and because they keep cutting out the sun. So, and there's hawks. Gosh, there's 2 hawks as well. Amazing. So
wow,
nature is agreeing with us second by second on this call.
Well, and vultures are the symbol of the mother goddess.
Amazing. It's so amazing. If I turn this round, you won't see them, so I would otherwise. But you know, one way I look at Trump, we're in the death throes of patriarchy. You know, whether we've got the future that we all want ahead of us in terms of the climate or not, we're in the death throes of patriarchy. And whenever an ego characteristic is threatened, it becomes the absolute worst caricature of itself before it dies. It just fully you know, I mean, all of us will have experienced this, because if we're on this call, then we're on a personal growth journey. And you know that when you start to become, you're so sick of this particular pattern of yours, because it's like, oh my God, you know, this, you know, the way that my mind works, or the way that I feel about my body, or the way that blah, it's just like, you sort of, it gets to like an ultimate volume before it falls away. You know, he's a trump card. No, the truth is in his name. It's like, he's the greatest organizer the world has ever had in terms of waking people up to the insanity of this particular form of leadership. Insanity. He's pulling up out of the unconscious all the nastiness, divisiveness, racistness, supremacy crap, the patriarchal nonsense, misogyny like you would never believe. It's not hidden anymore. Overt greed, you know, the whole lot is up. Well, something has to be up and made conscious before you can do anything about it, you know. So we're not actually in a worse state. I mean, you could say it's worse because we've got children being locked in cages, okay, and I could say it's worse because maybe we're about to lose the Amazon with this ridiculous Brazilian, if the Brazilians vote for him, but it's been there all along. It's not, we haven't just suddenly manifested this bizarre behavior, the consciousness out of which this behavior is arising. It's been there all along. It's just public now. It's up. And what it's doing is it's providing the rest of us with outrage, and a sense of, it has us really think about what we do want and what we do care about, and what is the future that we want, and what are we going to do to create that, because we can't wait for the leadership to do it for us, because they're doing the opposite. Okay, if they're going to do the opposite, what are we going to do? We're going to do something completely different. But it can't just be from here. Yeah. The leadership that comes, feminine consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. That's the last thing I heard in the crash. Feminine consciousness, the consciousness of seasons, of life cycles, of nature, of health, of abundance, of collaboration, of cooperation, of instinct, of intuition, of indivisibility from nature. That consciousness has to be reinstated or it's over. Okay, that's the domain of women. That's what we're woven for. That's what our energetic bodies are for. We have to take our leadership back. We can't wait for the patriarchy to say, oh yeah, sorry, we were wrong. Let's have the women. I have no idea what women even are. They're still busy trying to control our bodies and own our bodies. We have to redefine it. Yes. It's up to us. You can't wait around for the world to say, oh, sorry. You just have to go, okay, this is what I am. This is what's no longer acceptable. This is what we're doing. Me Too is doing it. The Me Too movement is doing that. Women's March is doing it. We've got the global stage right now, us and the kids, and I don't believe that that's going to happen in the last gasp of humanity. I just don't. I don't believe it's going to finish in 7 years. I do believe that we're walking towards cataclysmic climate change, but we have no idea what we're capable of in that time. We have no idea how we can be in relationship with the weather. We have no idea what a human being actually is. Now it's time to find out. It's time to find out. And nature's on our side. Nature has to be on our side because we are her. And all she wants, presumably, is for us to fall back into dynamic relationship with her. It's like remembering who and what we really are as women.
Yes.
I get a bit passionate about this stuff, don't I?
Yes to everything. Well, I thank you so much for all that you have shared here. It's been so powerful. And I do want to mention your free gift as well. You kind of have 2 free gifts here. One is the call tomorrow. And I put the link for that in the chat. And for anyone watching as a recording, I'll post it right below this video. But also, I know you have a free gift of rewilding your feminine nature. Would you like to say a few words about that mini course?
The mini course is it's 3 steps. It's 3 steps into more conscious relationship with your wild nature. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil it because essentially you'll get these 3 emails that come through to you with 3 offerings. I'll give you a 3rd gift though, because probably by the end of today, you'll find at soundcloud.com/Tree Sisters, the full moon call from today. So every full moon, Tree Sisters does a full moon call. And today was the gathering to shine. So today was a meditative experience where we came into more conscious relationship with the energies of our own soul. It was a really beautiful call, and it will be up, if it's not there tonight, it'll be up there tomorrow. And I'd love you to, sign up. I mean, become a Tree Sister, please become a Tree Sister, but also sign up for the full moons. Because then every month you do a deep drop in with women all over the world to anchor in this energy. So it's Shine this month. It's Belong next month. And then we move back into the whole system of Reveal, Embrace, and Body Activate, Shine, Belong in January. But this is all free. It's all free. It's all the offering of Tree Sisters to the world, essentially, to try and help all of us feel more resourced, because one of the biggest impediments to any of us taking action is that we're just exhausted. So, one of the fundamentals of self-care is to take really take time to drop deep and anchor in and listen, like really, really listen and nourish and, join arms and hands and come back to a place of hope.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for all of those gifts.
We were supposed to be doing Q&A, weren't we? Have I talked all over the Q&A?
It's totally good. It was really important. So I figured we were getting into so many different things there. And I asked a complicated question that required a long answer. So, but yes, we can go to Q&A now. So anyone who would like to ask Clare a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Or of course, you can also put a question in the Q&A box or in the chat. And somebody said the SoundCloud link didn't work yet. So I think Clare said that, be patient, come back to it a little while later and you'll see.
Come back to it tomorrow. I mean, what you will find on SoundCloud is, the gathering to reveal, the gathering to embrace, the gathering to embody, the gathering to activate, and hopefully the gathering to shine will be up by tomorrow.
Okay.
So the rewilding link didn't work. Well, this is great if nothing works at all.
Oh, that was what they were at. I think that's maybe what they meant, and I didn't understand. Let me just try it on my side. It does say this account has been suspended so maybe who should I contact for an updated link, and I can get that out to everybody?
It may not actually be working. I wasn't prepared for you to say that was our free gift because I'm not entirely sure that it is working. No, I mean, in all honesty, we've been having a meltdown with our website has been misbehaving. And it keeps shutting things down. We've got like a pinball machine thing going on where this shuts down and that shuts down and we fix this and then that goes down and we fix this and that goes down.
Okay.
So
it might have been working when you gave it to me months ago and now it's not.
Yeah. But what I can say is if you go to soundcloud.com/Tree Sisters, there are hundreds of free gifts because all the meditations that I've done over years are sitting there. And also, if you go to treesisters.org and you go to resources, and you'll see something called the Femiversity. Inside the Femiversity are free tools, videos, interviews, podcasts, endless meditations. There's dances in there. Just look for Femiversity in our resources. So there is no lack of free gifts. You could have like 300 of them right now because they're all sitting there for free. So if rewilding doesn't work, let's just pretend it never was mentioned. There's a lot more beside that. And the main thing is everybody getting onto the free call tomorrow, registering for the free call at thecouragetosshine.com. That's the real big gift.
Okay. Yes. And that's the best way, one of the best ways to take action right now too, around all of this.
Yeah. Breathe in first is what I would say. Like really breathe in, really get yourself nourished.
Yeah.
Come into the inner journey. If you look for inner journey, Tree Sisters Inner Journey on Facebook, you'll find us.
Okay. One question in the chat is, do you have any recommendations or resources where we can find the facts about what's really happening, climate change, et cetera? Do you have any trusted resources, that you can recommend to us?
There's so many and they all say different things. That's why I don't usually put things out. I mean, even when you've got the IPCC report, it's still not actually true. And who do you go to say what's actually true?
Yeah. And different studies are showing different things.
Well, as an example, you can go to one researcher and they'll say that we're losing 14 million trees a day. You can go to another and they'll say it's 30 million a day. That's the degree of discrepancy between people. Hook up with Amazon Watch, hook up with Rainforest Action Network. IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, is the oldest and biggest body on the planet looking at conservation. There's a lot of science with them. The World Resource Institute, WRI. But, you know, the Guardian newspaper, English, the New York Times, those two are really coming out with a lot of what's been hidden of late. New York Times has been doing some stunning stuff on climate change. The Guardian is really talking about ice melt. I've been very impressed with everything that they've got coming out. Trying to think where else I would go. You know, Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. Al Gore's organization is constantly training people around the true facts, and he's got a massive team of researchers behind him. Leonardo DiCaprio, the DiCaprio Foundation, again, he's coming out with an awful lot of stuff at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I've given you the ones that we go to. Monga Bay is another one for reforestation, deforestation news.
And this is
Google. You know, get on Google, essentially, ask your questions and see where you go. Peer-reviewed, looking for peer-reviewed. I mean, there's a lot of articles, and when I post articles, people go, it's not peer-reviewed, and I'm just like, yeah, well, we're running out of time right now, you know. I mean, in a way, does it matter what the science now says? If it's 14 million trees or it's 30 million trees, it's too many trees.
Yeah.
And we can't afford to lose another tree. So then that says, rather than scribbling over the science, are you looking at everything that you're buying? Has anything got palm oil in it? You know, if you're buying wood, where's that wood coming from? You know, how are your choices contributing or not contributing? A lot of the oil that's coming out of the Amazon is being processed in Richmond, California, really close to where I am. Amazon.org, Amazon.com rather, you know, big Amazon. A lot of their oil that they use is coming straight out of the Amazon. They're a big contributor. You know, we don't know, but we just go, oh, I could just use Amazon. But we've got to start waking up to what we're using and the impact that it has. Google may be really useful, but Ecosia, ECOSIA, every time you do a search on a search engine, they plant trees. You know, we can make choices all over the place that have huge impact, regardless of what the climate science says or whether we choose to believe it. Right now, it's a case of, okay, climate change is happening. Regardless, what do? We have to reforest really, really, really fast. That's bottom line. We have to reforest because otherwise the carbon's going into the ocean. 80% of our coral reefs are dead or dying. You know, we cannot lose our coral reefs, which means we've got to get the carbon out of the atmosphere. Which is one reason, you know.
Yeah, and these, you know, infusing our daily activities with things that are supporting or at least not harming the environment is really important because we do hundreds or thousands of daily activities, right? So how can we be making a difference just with each and every one of our small actions?
Yeah,
that's important. Yeah. So there's a question here in the chat from Deborah, who I know she said she can't come on live with us, but she wanted to put this in the chat. She wanted to ask if you could speak about accessing our feminine power for those who no longer have a womb or cervix. And so I don't know if you feel that's in your wheelhouse and something you want to go for. But I wanted to see if you would want to speak on that. She says, I've birthed 3 beautiful children via that former womb.
Well, you know, I've never had a child. So in the measures of what a woman is, you know, a lot of us would say, if you're a mother, you have embodied the ultimate creative expression of what it means to be a woman. It's not something I'll ever experience. You know, lizards can grow back their tails and starfish can grow back theirs, and actually people have grown back limbs. The reason they can do that is because our physical matter, our material self, sits on top of an energetic template called the etheric body. The etheric body is the energy body that holds all the information for our physiology. You know, the reason these critters can, God, I sound so American. The reason these animals can grow back their limbs is because their etheric bodies are strong enough. You know, we have this belief that when our limb is gone, it's gone. It's not gone, just the physical matter is gone. You have a womb and a cervix, just not the physical one. You know, I absolutely believe that if you tune into your body, and if you can get past the grief, if you have grief about not having it, and actually find your way back in there, in the energetic body of yourself, which hasn't gone anywhere, it's still there, you can fully feel it. You know, you can feel it in the same way as you can luxuriate in the sensuality of the breeze on your skin, and the way that your hips can sway with the reeds, in the way that your body responds to music, in the way that your, you know, your sexual response occurs. Like, you are no less woman because you don't have a physical womb. You know, it's just unhelpful thinking. And if you feel less of a woman because of that, then you have a potentially glorious path ahead of you of reclaiming your femininity, you know, and of defining that for yourself and exploring that for yourself, in the same way that all of us that have got wombs still and can still feel like a man because of how we've been treated, also have got our own unique journeys back into our femininity. You know, and I would say the feminine is fluid and cyclical and sensual and receptive, and, you know, she moves. The feminine is not linear. She's constantly flowing. She's the weather, and that's available to all of us. You know, one of the things that I tend to do these days to handle my stress levels is dance every day. I love to dance because it puts me in touch with my feminine flow. I need to flow because so much of my time is in fundraising and, you know, corporate this and board meetings and reforestation stats and blah. And actually, I just want to be whirling. I want to be swimming in the tide and the river of life. And I get to do that with myself. So first of all, to the part of yourself that feels less than, wrap her in your arms and let her know that she's not less than at all. She's not less than. And then find your way into proving that to yourself by some outrageous lovemaking or some spontaneous dancing. Am I doing movement medicine? No, not consciously, not in terms of the body of work that is movement medicine. My training was 25 years of 5 rhythms dance, out of which movement medicine arose. I know the founders of movement medicine. Fabulous people.
They were the live interview right before you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jakob and Susanna. Yeah. They're good. They're fabulous. And yes. They do long dance in England every year, which I've never managed to get to. Mm-hmm. And a story from long dance, because my ex-partner went and did a long dance about years ago, actually now. There's a blue butterfly that's pretty much considered endangered in the UK. And so there's all these people dancing their prayer for the earth at long dance. And the farmer came by after their ceremony and said, I wanted you to know that there were literally thousands of blue butterflies on the roof of the marquee that they were dancing in, that they had no idea were there, but they literally called forth. This is what I mean by we have no idea what we're capable of if we're in prayerful, honoring, respectful, loving communion with life. We have no idea.
That is incredible.
I love Jakob and Susanna. Oh my God, if you can do their work, do it. If you can dance, just dance.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Claire, so much. I think time-wise, we need to bring this meeting to a close. I just want to thank you from all of my heart for being here, for making the time in your busy schedule, and for just being here with us, heart and soul, and sharing everything that you have here.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I hope to welcome a whole load of you to Tree Sisters, and especially into the Courage to Shine. Thank you, Jocelyn, for being so incredibly generous and allowing me to speak Tree Sisters to the degree that you have. and especially for gathering people the way that you do, doing it with such humility and so much respect for everybody. It's a really, really beautiful gift that you offer.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And I think this sharing about Tree Sisters, you know, people want to know how to take action, and you are providing these really, really critical ways that we can take action. So we need to, you know, we can all jump in different ways and contribute to Tree Sisters, which is going to change everything. So it's
Yay.
important. Yeah. All right. Well, yes, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah, just thank you again.
Pleasure. Take care.
You too.